Welcome to the Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Mosi Thurlow scale,
or MOTS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello there, welcome back to Lost Signals Reviews, Film and Television. And before we're gone tonight, I would just like to point out that we have a new addition to our studio. For those watching, you could possibly see a bit of it, but I will describe it if I can for you. It is a Bob Camp exclusive, if you will. We met him at the Greater Philadelphia Comic Con, ended up chatting with him a bit, and ended up getting a commission from him, a piece of art made for us, relevant to us. It's Ren and Stimpy in the studio, going nuts, if you remember that episode. And it's also, he's give us all a shout out on it, so it's fucking amazing. We'll try to have more pictures of it and more things with it in the upcoming couple episodes. But yeah, Ian finally got it in from him, and it's fucking fantastic. So
Yeah.
I want to say big shout out, big thanks to him, and I'll give him a quick plug. Yes,
Well,
before I do that, Steve-O.
I just want everybody to know, if you're interested in taking a look closer, we'll put it up again, but we posted this on Facebook, so you can go back.
Don't worry, we'll make sure it's available as many places as
we're going to be
possible.
quite insufferable about this for a long time. So.
But I promise you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
So again, big thanks to Bob Camp. So you can find him at Bob Camp Art, 3 separate words. That's one of his Facebook outlets, and also Bob Lab Studios, all one word, on Facebook as well. And we'll put in a bunch of links and so forth in the description. But yeah, again, big shout out, big thanks. This is fucking sweet. Awesome addition to a new studio, and we're going to enjoy the hell out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
We're psyched about it. Thank you so much, man.
Indeed. So, let me tell you what we're talking about tonight. We're going to do Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, the new sort of choose-your-own TV adventure thing that has been put out on Netflix. And I, of course, am your chosen host for the night, Scott Thurlow. And I'm here with Christopher Morgan,
Good evening.
Jonathan Ian Manzer.
You have chosen poorly.
Indeed you have. And Stephen Amosi.
And I'm always looking for the best ending.
We will take the liberty of choosing a review for you, of course. So we're not going to do an actual review of it like a normal scale. I guess we'll just describe like what we did with it, and then go on from there. But I will mention this before we go on. I'm sorry, one thing I did want to mention as well. Back in the day, when we first began podcasting, we had floating around the idea of doing some Choose Your Own Adventure stuff. In fact, we have some lost episodes that probably will never come out of us like basically reading through some Choose Your Own Adventure novels that we found, some old school shit. And like we sort of voted on like what to do and shit. It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun
to record.
It was great.
Unfortunately, because of legal and other various weird issues, we were unable to probably release them at this time or ever. But nevertheless, I just want to point out that we're all kind of fans of this format. When we were kids, we certainly read a lot of that stuff and we're interested in it. And we've certainly discussed this kind of thing, even in games and so forth. Maybe a little bit of philosophy. So yeah. So Bandersnatch is, again, Black Mirror script. Charlie Booker wrote it as normal. And it centers on a young game developer in 1984 who wishes to adapt this novel, Choose Your Own Adventure novel, huge one, if we're to believe like what's shown in the film, to a video game, and is trying to basically shop around this idea to one of the upcoming studios. And it goes on from there. Like, depending on what you choose, various things happen here and there. So,
Yeah, I was just going to say, this just came into my mind, a little bit of interesting trivia, perhaps more so for you and me, Scott, than most other people who are watching this. But at one point, Warren Ellis was supposed to do the Russell F. Davies part.
Oh yeah, Jerome F. Davies.
Or Jerome F. Davies.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said Russell.
I have it written down.
Jerome F. Davies part, but he was busy doing Castlevania and couldn't do it. So
Interesting anecdote. Unfortunately, that led to a bad ending.
Please try again.
in another version of this story, you could see
it was
that.
awesome, and you would have gotten that reference. But no, so yeah, like, of course, it's a bit... I guess I'll say at the outset, I think it's a bit of a gimmick. But I think necessarily so at this time. They're trying it out. It's an experimental thing, right? So, I guess my original assessment of it... do you guys want me to tell you what I did, or do you want to...
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about... I'll address kind of what you just said there. I think that... Yeah, Choose Your Own Adventure in general, I guess, is kind of a gimmick, right? Like, whether it's in book form or
kind of
movie form. But I think that, and I'm glad that the Black Mirror people will say did this, because I think it's a better attempt at it than a lot of other ways it could have gone.
All right, so weirdly, I'm into FMV games. I was back
It's
in
not
the
all
day
that weird,
too.
man. FMV is fine.
No, it's not fun. That's the thing. I don't know what choices I made in my life that led me down the path to enjoy FMV games, but they weren't good choices.
What choices people made for you?
So I just actually go off a little. That led me down the a shapeshifting detective, and I played that while I did the Bandersnatch of this episode. I'm like, it's weird that on one end I'm playing a game that has movie sequences, and it's basically a choose your own adventure, and here's a movie with
Sort of
choose
vice
your own
versa,
adventure.
what you just said, yeah.
And I'm interested now in what the difference between the two styles is, and because you wouldn't consider, you mentioned earlier that it's a gimmick, but it's not for a whole subsect of games, except it's
Kind of. It's more accepted. It's been used more in the gaming sector, sure. But it's still, like Steve said, I guess I will agree that the choose your own adventure format, wherever medium, is kind of a gimmick always unto itself.
And
that's kind of
video has
true,
been using this, like trying to turn video into a game or trying to turn a movie into a game has been happening for a long time. They used to have VHS tapes that you would pause and make decisions about, and then you would go on and things like that, like murder mysteries and stuff like that.
Fast forward to 21.
Yeah,
81
exactly.
Turn to page 58.
So I mean, it's not like it's a brand new thing, but in terms of streaming and the way that they did it, of course, they're setting a new precedent for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense, like you said, Black Mirror would pick it up. So again, it's one of their first forays. I think that Netflix also has done Minecraft story mode, which is similar. But anyways, yeah, so it's a story, like a Black Mirror story. If you're familiar with the series at all, it has all the hallmarks of that, except you get to make like maybe 10, 15 decisions throughout, depending, like give or take, like roughly that. So let's just describe our adventures and then talk about that, and then we think of it as go back to the format thing.
Sure.
Here's what I did. I got through it like maybe in an hour and 10. The major points were I chose not to accept the offer. I was like, I'm going to make the game at home. I followed Colin to his apartment. I took the acid, like voluntarily, but told him to jump.
Yeah.
So then it flashes. Then you get shipped back to the therapist's office. I only had the option to flush the pills or like throw them away. I couldn't even take them, even if I wanted to, in my playthrough. So I did one of those. Ended up making the game. I never tried to destroy my computer because I was like, yo, I'm trying to make a game. Why would I ever destroy? I'm a fucking programmer. That was my mindset to get into the character. So I guess I got in the tuffle with my dad, ended up killing him and chopped up his body, which then allowed me, I guess the rest, like the narrative wants me to believe that was enough that I could focus on making the game and turn it in. And it got a 5-star review, except then months later, it came out that I had murdered my father, and then all copies were pulled. So like my ending was Colin's daughter, grown up, is trying to adapt it. Like she found an old copy of Bandersnatch and now trying to adapt it to not Netflix. And I was like pretty satisfied with my run through. I never got thrown back, never like, oh, try again, you made a bad move or whatever.
Yeah, I really did like the daughter ending. I got that one eventually as well. I was telling you guys I did like 4 different endings.
I only did one playthrough to see that one, and I was satisfied with it. So
it kept letting me go back, so I just kept going back and doing more.
Sure.
I don't know. You want to go on yours, Chris?
Yeah, tell your adventure.
All right.
How you did it.
Well, well, first I'm going to get this out of the way. Like we chose the Frosties first, and you have a choice of cassette tape.
Of course you chose the
Chris
Frosties.
is
Oh, yeah,
a hive mind.
Everyone chose the
No,
Frosties.
Beth and I played together because I was just like, all right, we did kind of a collective thing. And as soon as I saw the cassettes, you had the choice of a mixtape and Thompson Twins Into the Gap, which for me was probably talk about directions in life. This was like probably one of the most important,
folks.
One of the most important albums in my life. Was the thing that got me playing piano. And there is something Scott and I talked about with regard to the era that's taking place in 1984, because at the time, musically, if you're talking like electronic music,
a very inauspicious year.
Yeah, well, this is about the time you're going from analog music to digital, but also in terms of video games, this is when we're going from the Atari 2600 and text games. You're trying to marry them like they were. So they did in this thing where they're trying to do the text-based games with the
No
graphics.
Get Lamp or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
As he said.
So I thought it was really interesting in terms of we're going from print to the digital age. They've got Betamax there, so it's kind of like a really good time. I have to commend them. Right when they released this,
yes.
was a really good time to release this. Again, as somebody who's in electronic music, it went from analog to digital, and I kind of and then you see the print go into video. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Anyway, after that, we did take the offer, and we what did we do?
Well, it kicks you right back. You can't take the offer.
We took the offer.
I mean, you
then,
can, but then it says
then
like,
we
you
had
can't.
to then it kicks you back. Then we had to
And then what's his name
refuse-
says you fucked up.
Yeah,
The other programmer, Colin.
we refused the offer. I did end up following Colin. I did take the acid. We jumped first, and then it kicked us back, and then we asked him to jump. And we picked the PAX thing to unlock the
safe.
The safe thing.
PAX?
No,
PACS?
P period ace period
Yes.
C period, yeah, PAX.
Both of those are options. eventually.
There's PAC, because he also talks about
Actually, yeah,
man.
I had just PAC as one of my
No.
options, and
Yeah.
PAX.
Because
There's subtle differences there, which we'll get to in a second.
He has a whole thing about Pac-Man.
Yes, there's
Which
a Pac-Man rant,
There's a Pac-Man rant, and
Pac-Man.
a Pac rant, if you will. Yes.
our first ending, because we played it through a couple times. Our first ending was we ended up in the psychiatrist's office, and we kept going back. So we ended up getting the toy eventually, and the first ending we got was we got the flashback where we go back in time to when our mom asked us if we want to go with her. We went with her because I'm like, we're probably going to die. And that's what happened. We died in the therapist's office. Then we weren't satisfied with that, went back and tried a couple of different endings. And I'll let you guys go on because I know I went on a little music tangent, but it's a very important feature for me.
Oh, what was the ending you got?
The first ending we got was when we died in the therapist's office. Do you want to know what the other endings we got, or do you want to go for
Yeah,
yours?
hold on. Well, yeah, you do yours.
Because I only got one ending, and I have no idea what any of you are talking about.
I think you're the only one that got this ending,
Yes.
by the way.
So I'm going to skip over the beginning part because we've already discussed that at length. And the mid game was a lot like my early 20s. I got high, dropped some acid,
Jumped off a fucking
jumped
balcony.
off a balcony. Then I got shot back. Went to the psychiatrist's office, got some meds, took the meds, got shot back. Went smoked some more pot, jumped off the balcony again to see if anything different happened. No, that doesn't. And then I eventually decided to dump the pills. I remember eventually getting to the point where I told the main character that I was from Netflix. I was
When he asked
viewer
for a
of
sign.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that too.
And I ended up getting, I think, the meta ending where the psychiatrist and I got to a kung fu battle.
Yep.
And I tried to jump out the window, but the window was a fake.
The director is like not supposed to do that. It's supposed to have a
Exactly.
fight, yeah.
And it turns out all to have been a meta commentary on Netflix and doing acid.
That was one of the endings we
Indeed.
ended up getting, actually,
Yeah.
because we went back and did a couple times, and we did get that. And by the way, just side note, this was one of the better depictions of an acid trip, because usually people who do acid have no idea. Like this one and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas are the two that I think.
I agree. Oh, there's also 2 points I want to make. I did get the mother, save the mother thing. That went nowhere in my plot line.
Well, you uncovered the government conspiracy.
And there's the second part.
Yeah.
That it turns out that all this is a government conspiracy, but that went nowhere because it turns out to not have been an actual television show with any coherent narrative.
So I thought that the go back in time through the mirror thing was somewhat interesting. Did you guys get that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't. Okay. So
Scott chose the best path.
I went
think.
straight through, made a 5-star game, and murdered my father, and that's
well,
it, dude.
I thought you had to go through the mirror to get to the unlock the.
I never unlocked the
thing.
safe.
Oh, you never had to unlock the safe. Okay.
I mean, I put in
yeah.
the 2 options that I had, but neither of them worked. So I was like, well, I'm moving on.
So like that was really interesting. Like you go back and you find a safe. You could put in PAX, PACS, which opens it. You put in PAX, which does not open it.
Or PAC.
And then
which
your father finds you. Well, he finds you no matter what, I think. But or you can also put in toy, which opens
I didn't have toy.
a top
I
compartment.
never saw toy either.
Yeah, so toy comes up I think the second time that you
Okay.
get to it.
So you have to have gone back at least once.
Yeah, so if you
Which
put in
we'll get to
toy,
that,
it
too.
opens the top compartment and you get the bear
Rabbit
back.
or whatever. Yeah.
And then that's a really interesting ending. You basically you get the toy back, you find it, and then your mother has already missed. Did you guys see the part where your mother misses her train?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your mother's already missed her train, and she's like, "Well, you found your toy. Do you want to come?" And then it cuts to you, and you can say yes or no. And so I picked yes, and then that's basically it. Like you just fucking go and die on the train with her.
and you die in the therapist's office.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's the ending. That's
yeah.
the ending of the therapist
Because you die
office,
through
right,
time or
that's
whatever.
right.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens if you pick no on that.
I can't remember what happens.
I can't remember if I picked no or not.
Obviously not memorable.
I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. So like, there's one ending where you get a 1 out of 5. You like, I think. Well, you have to kill your father no matter what. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I killed my father and buried him and got a 2.5 star rating.
Shouldn't have buried him.
Yeah.
Like I
There's-
said.
I know, man.
You can get the 2.5 star. You can get a 1 out of 5 rating.
I think you get a 0 too at some
Or
point.
it's like-
I got a
Yeah.
0.
You rush. Oh, maybe
one
that's
of
the
the
one.
endings we got was a
Maybe
0
that's the
too.
one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Where like you just rush through the game and like,
Yes.
yeah. And then there's oh man, I'm trying to remember like what
would
the other
Scott
endings
do
are.
is the I think is the name of the.
Because I went through
Bandersnatch.
I went through this and it was like a blur of like all these different like choices and endings.
Exactly. That's how time travel works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue perhaps because so I've one big broad question which you don't have to answer now per se, but I'll introduce it regardless. Would you guys think? Do you think this would have worked better if it were just like a straight up regular Black Mirror, without the additional layer of choosing shit here and there? Like if they just made it a story, even they can even have multiple timelines, multiple endings, and all that. Just that you don't participate.
No.
So think about that. Okay.
I don't think so. I don't want to see like I didn't want this to be like Clue style like or perhaps this happened.
ended. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm glad that I had to, even though you don't have any real choice at all. I was glad that I was the arbiter of like what happened and like I love the like little meta narrative of like you can pick Netflix and then you have to explain to them what fucking Netflix
So
is.
you enjoyed like having the participation angle for it?
Yeah,
Watching it?
I
Yeah.
actually really like the way that they did it. I think I ended up on like a various other scale, giving this like a 4 out of 5 stars or something like that, because I just enjoyed the experience. I had a lot of fun. I watched it with my roommate, and we were both like going back and forth, like, all right, what do you want to pick? Or like we'd have to like pick really quick, you know. We'd be getting down to like the time, and then it was like, all right, we got to pick something, and then we go with whatever it was. But I actually enjoyed that experience. I think this is a fun experience if you have like 2 or 3 people. More than that would get a little unruly, but like
Sure. As we've kind of find out,
Yeah.
it'll be
All right, let me answer your question with a question.
okay.
Would we be reviewing this if it didn't have
Even
the
doing this
Choose Your Own
discussion.
Adventure?
No,
Would
that's a
we
good
have even
point.
Seen it?
Because
Probably not.
No, I would have watched it, but I don't think I would have watched it, just on my own.
Mm.
I don't
No,
think
but
we
it would have
been
been
an
as-
episode
it
out of
as an
probably
episode
would
of
have
Black
ended up
Mirror.
as an
Yeah.
episode in a season as opposed to
No, I mean they've done specials before. All I'm saying is that if they didn't have like this angle to it, you're right. Like, would it even like? It's clearly more into discussion and more prone to because it has that, and we're discussing like how it works, or conversely, it might not. But you're right. Like, if we're just like, hey, Black Mirror special Bandersnatch, and the narrative was what it was, or even like, again, the Clue style thing was pretty good.
Right.
And you're like, okay, fine, but it's just another special. True.
One of
Right.
the things that Beth was trying and was really disappointed they didn't have is a third option that if you didn't choose, the default would be something that
Like hidden.
would be something hidden, would be like a character.
something to think about for next time for
Yeah,
them.
I was just because she said she wanted to kind of put it in the hands of the character, thinking if you didn't make a choice, maybe there was an option where
free will option.
the free will option, yeah. In which I thought when Scott presented this question the other day, and Beth told me, I knew that was her idea. I thought that was kind of would be an interesting marriage. That's what got me thinking about it.
Sure. No, I mean you're right. Like because it has that aspect, like the angle to it. Of course, it's sort of like in a very Black Mirror-esque way, like on the cutting edge of what can be done and what they're trying to do with this stuff. So like, I want to make a point that as we normally study narrative, just forget about the Choose Your Own Adventure stuff for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I felt as if maybe because of it, in spite of it, and I don't know how to describe this, but I felt as if they threw a lot of stuff into it to like try to make work, and not all of it lands. Like for example, I loved, because I have a weakness for this, I loved the Jerome F. Davies thing. He's clearly a Philip K. Dick XP kind of like figure, and that's like it's part of the narrative. But if they removed that, like would it have changed all that much?
But here's the thing: is,
And other things like that
but
too.
How you described, I think this is more not an indictment of the narrative of the show necessarily, but of how you take in entertainment like this. You said that you went through very decisive. You got the ending and then you left.
I mean, to be fair, I looked up other endings,
No,
but I
yeah.
did not feel compelled to.
Yeah.
Wait, you
Go
looked them
back.
up as you were playing?
No, after I was done.
Okay.
But I think that like it's a different thing with looking up different endings and getting the experience of the
Right.
narrative.
I mean, you're absolutely
Again,
right.
I had sections of the narrative, like you find sometimes happens in Choose Your Adventures, where they have to set up something that may occur later on if you choose a certain path, but
Right.
might not if you choose another path, and that happened, and I accept that as a
As a
limit
consequence of having to do
just as I meet people in my life that if a different path had chosen would be more important, but I'm stuck with you, gentlemen.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, you chose. Try again. But I mean, you're right. That's a very valid point to be sure. And again, I'll just point out that I feel like you might feel this in general, the crunch of time in real life. So I was like, I'm gonna watch it once and whatever. But like,
That's why I got
You're right,
the
like,
meta narrative.
when I was a kid, like for example, I think we all did this as well. When you were reading a Choose Your Adventure book, you would obviously like look at all the possibilities and all
Yeah.
the endings. At least I did that, and I feel like you would have largely done that same thing. So I'm just saying, like, in light of all that, yes,
I was gonna say we also do that with video games because how many times do you
Yeah,
like
of course.
playing where you're like, okay, you want to make sure, okay, what happens to this? You go on
no, you're absolutely right, and that's
to one of the wikis or
kind of what I was saying because it's almost a gamifying. You like this term, gamifying
Mm.
television to a degree. Yes, it's very rudimentary, as you might say. Like it's almost like a Telltale kind of game. Like you have a decision, counter starts coming down, and
Right.
make one, and it makes one for you if you don't. So like that's fine, but like it's hard because I'm not trying to criticize it too much. I enjoyed it. You're right, but you're right. Not enough to like go back per se in one sitting. Maybe I would have gone back like later on or something, but
If there were trophies involved, I would have gone
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
seen all
That's the next level of gamifying television.
I think that's an interesting
watched-
point. Is like,
Yeah.
no, you're watching this in a way of like, all right, I have this much time to do this.
No, I
And,
allowed
like-
it for whatever it's going to be, but once I was done, like a complete like watch through, if you will. of
Yeah,
it.
like what I'm saying is this thing isn't necessarily for you, apparently, like seemingly, right? Like because you're like, well, I don't want to fucking go back and do this, but there are certainly people who did. I mean, I watched a bunch more endings.
And if I was younger, or like had more
And
time, I
so-
would have probably
So
done that.
let me ask you this: at your ending, did it give you an option to go back to another point, and
Yeah.
you were just like go to credits?
Yeah, it's
okay.
jump back to like one of the major scenes.
So for mine, it was the end of a night. One night, I was watching it, on a Friday or something. I didn't have anything else to do, so I got actually the same ending that you got at one point, and it was like, all right, go
At
back to
first,
this,
yeah.
or you can exit the credits. And I was like, all right, let's go back and let's see what else there is. And it's an extra 10, 15 minutes added on, but I got to see 3 more endings after that. And when I got to
depending.
when I got to my 4th one, it automatically went to credits. So like I think there are 2 endings that automatically go to credits, so you can't see all of them in one sitting.
mm-hmm.
But you can get 4, which I did. And
That's fair.
Yeah, so like that was interesting. However, it does present the problem of like I don't exactly remember what all 4 of those endings are. I remember the good ones,
Right.
which is the one that I mentioned and the one that you said.
But that's go on.
That's life for you. You remember the good. You should diffuse the negatives.
When you
That-
made bad decisions.
That is actually an excellent point.
no, but I mean,
but
like,
I do
that's true
remember
as
like
well.
certain paths. Like I do remember
Right.
certain things about all of the paths. It was just like the most interesting part about each path. Like I remember, you could take the toy option on the chest, or the PAX, or the PAX. PACS or PAX. I think there's one other option.
Yeah, I'm about to tell you.
On the chest, I forget what it was.
It's like so. If you don't uncover the government conspiracy, you get PAX, the demon thing, which is
Mhm.
another like element that kind of threw in there
yeah,
that relates to Jerome F. Davies, or just PAC, like as in Pac-Man.
right. that's
And
what
neither
it
of those work. Like I tried them both, and I was like, well, I'll just move on. But to address your earlier point, yeah, like you're right. I'm not like I enjoyed Bandersnatch quite a bit. Like, don't get me wrong, and I like what they're trying with the format. I just think I know I'm in a difficult position to say like I wish I could do more, and you're gonna say, well, how to do it? I'm like, I don't know per se, but you're right. Like if you are able to remember like the ones that stuck with you, then yeah, it's impactful and it's sort of worth it. And to address something you said, like, yeah, games have always been, we've always said that, like, you're at the mercy of the programmer gods. You're almost pretty much the same thing
Yeah.
here. But I mean, I do appreciate that they're trying something new with it. They're trying to figure out how it works. And I liked it as sort of a test run, a prototype in a sense.
Well, do you see this as like a viable option for, or do you think it's like a one-trick pony?
I got one for you.
I'll let he answer.
Movie theaters, where everyone
right.
has to
Crowd voting?
the crowd decides the path of the movie.
People
That
are going to
would
get
be-
murdered. I love this idea.
That'd be brilliant.
All right, you want to talk your in the mouth?
There
of
will be
Ma-
movie theaters
you
burning
wanna
down
talk
left and
about-
right.
You want to talk about your in the mouth of madness ending?
Yeah. No, I mean that's really funny, but like, again, like you said, Steve, you and Louis, probably whoever, Michael, maybe one of your roommates,
Yeah.
you were like sort of joined. Hey, and we sort of did that too. So like that sort of maybe adds to the viewing experience because like you don't do that like with anything else,
Right.
other watching other shit.
The beauty of watching with other people is that it adds an element of curiosity to what they would decide.
That's fair point.
Um,
Very very valid. It almost psychologically does that. Yeah, you're invested like almost at the outset.
I'm just gonna say my biggest criticism of this is, as we said before, I like the fact that you start off. It already is a meta narrative. You are starting with the choose your narrative. You want some marinara?
It's my favorite
I'm
sauce.
hungry now.
I like to pour it on my television. Anyway, go on.
You already have the meta narrative of the choose your own adventure moving to the digital.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sure.
as I said, I found this time period to be interesting because of that. But when you had the option of whether it was the symbol or whether it was Netflix, that fucking pissed me off.
Who among you chose?
Who
Among you chose Netflix?
I chose the
certainly
symbol.
did.
we chose
Because that was
Two
hilarious.
Netflixes. We both chose the meta. You guys chose the in story.
Well,
thing.
because the thing is, it's just like, to me, they were trying to be too cute. I mean, like they're trying.
The
to
Netflix option was amazing. You
Oh.
should have picked it.
I did pick.
was-
You have to eventually pick the path we chose.
That's
You
not true.
eventually have
Well,
to.
I-
All right, Scott
on.
obviously chose did.
I'm just saying, I
ending
didn't pick.
wanted.
I was like tempted to. I was so tempted. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I kind of want to stick to my like loving of references, and I picked the symbol because it's the thing from White Bear. It's another reference to another Black Mirror episode. All I'm saying is like I chose that symbol. I didn't choose Netflix, and
It
I
was-
still got to like
But
a hard ending.
It made such a point of pointing out how this character had literally no agency, regardless of whether he thought he did or not. It was so good.
Sure.
I see. To me, that was
Chris
just trying
begs to
be
differ,
Too
it
clever
seems.
by half. I thought I like if you put it in to Pearl's ending where she was working for Netflix. Cool. But I think to make, because when we chose a symbol, we ended up having to get back and
Chris,
choosing Netflix.
Here's the thing: is you don't have to pick that. You could pick a different option to go. And if you say that you have to pick Netflix, then you're suggesting that you're not in control of yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's put it this way.
Then
Somehow
you-
Netflix is controlling you.
After we picked the symbol, the path we chose made it so we had to go back and pick Netflix.
Did you have to pick Netflix, or did you still have two choices?
No, we had to. We go back. We had to pick Netflix.
Netflix was the only choice on the screen. You
'Cause
couldn't pick the other thing again.
No, I didn't try to pick the other thing again. We figured we'd just get kicked back again.
Well, you never
Maybe
know.
we should have been a little more persistent.
I'll tell you, the first thing I picked was
Yeah.
Netflix, and it brought me back, and I picked the other thing, and then I got an ending out of that. So you could definitely get an ending out of that one.
All right.
I will say that if I didn't do so before, I will give them credit on the fact that it isn't just like a one-time thing. Like it accounts for if you've done multiple stuff,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like the little scene that I saw with E where Colin says something again, like a little line or whatever that's dropped in that didn't happen on my playthrough because I only did it once and didn't account for that. It couldn't have because I didn't go back and do that.
I didn't get Netflix option the first time around.
All right.
I had
Yeah.
two other.
You had the
symbols.
symbol and PAX, like
Oh, yeah.
the program
Yeah.
Oh,
control
because
thing.
I found the.
Right. So I will say like they did encapsulate like account for a couple of more things than I expected to at the outset. So like that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't as simplified as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
So
and it's
did a
fat,
good
like,
job there.
I can, and just on a from a technical standpoint, I can't imagine all the like coverage they had to film for. Like, all
Well,
right,
they said that. Yeah.
well, we got to do 5 different options for this,
Yeah.
5 different options for this. Like all the streamlining they must have had to do with like filming and things like that. I think that's
Continuity must be
fucking fascinating. Yeah.
Sure.
rank
Like
themselves into a stupid.
it must have been like you're right, interesting as hell to try to film and produce and so forth and program.
Everybody on continuity is now popping pills.
Yeah,
Maybe.
exactly. They're like the kid from the fucking movie.
They're Jerome F. Davies himself.
Yeah.
Sure, but like I mean that's a good point. Like like that's also fine. I don't know, man. Like I enjoyed it overall. I just don't know how to tell you or anybody how to improve it. But I do certainly want to see more of it, more experiments with it in general. And I think it worked fairly well, even though I maintain that it would have been fine for me personally if it were just like a straight up Black Mirror like movie, like without that aspect.
Yeah.
But it was fun to go through and interesting to like check out and talk about.
Well, see, here's the trap that we're now in. Because I'm hearing what you did, and I'm hearing what you did, and I'm like, fuck, do I have to go back and check this thing out again? Because
You don't have to do anything. It's your choice.
Chris, you
that's what
absolutely. First of all, the player controlling you says that you have to.
I could do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, sure you can.
Maybe.
So
We'll
you
see
say,
if you don't do it again.
but no, I mean, like again, of course, yeah, like you said, that your mileage may.
I'm phoning a
Yeah,
friend.
okay, your mileage may vary. I'm gonna tell you what friend the phone.
All right.
It's counting down now. But sure, like if you're into it and it gets you, then you won't mind like going back, doing a couple scenes a couple of times, and then but choosing A1 and then B1 or whatever, like
Right.
as you go through again. So like that's all fine. Like yeah, like again, we said we all had an affinity for this kind of format, and now that it's coming to, we're in quote unquote the golden age of television, perhaps, and now one of the streaming services that's at the forefront is trying something new with a format that they can mess with.
Which I appreciate. Which I can appreciate.
I will have to say that I do appreciate, as a fan of FFV games, as I said earlier, is the acting can be pretty subpar in this, and that's part of their.
But
charm.
it's kind of exactly.
Actually, I thought this was this. I thought this.
And I thought this was acted pretty well, but
I thought it was acted pretty well, and I thought like narratively, I thought like stylistically, it was well done. It was
And
sure.
That is something that I'm taking into consideration, that this is a bigger budget production.
yeah.
So it's like more enjoyable to watch in a certain sense, but
because it has a high production value.
nor is it cheesy enough to warrant multiple view on my part, because I'm not laughing. FMVs, I'm laughing at them. More often than not.
Fair enough.
So
Yes. Sorry, did you have something?
I thought he was going to laugh. At
He's
us.
he's traveling through time, folks. He's stuck in making a choice. Like that's one thing I did think was funny. Speaking of that, I'll tell you maybe one of my final thoughts that might be more humorous is that when you're forced to make a choice, right? Because they have to wait for you to choose whatever, so the character's like blankly staring at whatever, or like,
but again, that's the
Right,
that's
it's
the
the
good
time.
part.
You know what? For the most part,
It wasn't
not an
that-
amazing job, but they do a
Sure.
decent job with like continuing the dialogue
Right.
through like when you
like
have to
someone would be
make
like,
a choice.
well, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
But you were actually speaking to before whether about this being a gimmick or not, and to their credit, my
It
criticism,
was less of one than I
my,
thought.
My criticisms of like the Netflix option aside, they really could have just thrown together. This really could have been a little more shoddily done. At least they did give it some thought with regard to when they said it. There are little
Sure,
Easter
there was a lot of
eggs that I
care and
noticed.
thought put into it.
I think
as you
everybody
said.
would be really disappointed if Black Mirror did that, though. I would be very surprised if Black Mirror didn't put
Sure.
a lot of production into this.
But would they have been upset if they made it FMV quality game production? Because that would be.
That would also be super meta to an extent.
It would just be too much.
They
I think they
should
should have
try
done
it
the whole
next time.
thing
That should have been
on,
one of the
on
endings.
like Atari graphics.
Like I said, they should try it next time. Maybe do
Yeah.
a spin-off show or something. But no, I mean, like I said, Bandersnatch overall, I like the idea of it, like the framework, of course, because they're a video game, of everything I said about it. And I enjoyed it for the most part. I'm interested to see where they go from here, like what they're going to iterate upon with this.
To answer is it a gimmicky? It's going to be Bandersnatch 3D.
All right, fair enough.
I'm waiting for that. I
The
gotta.
gimmick of all gimmicks.
I also have to give Will Poulter, the only actor that I recognized in this, credit. I think he did a pretty damn good job, and honestly, I think all the rest of the actors did a good job too.
No, I think it was.
Which one was
yeah.
Will Poulter?
He was the like young programmer.
Colin,
Yeah.
Colin. Okay.
his guru, his mentor,
Yeah.
the WizKid programmer. But yeah, so like that's my final thought on it.
I agree. I think it was a good. I thought it was a good flick. Like a
Good
fun,
first run.
interesting thing. It's to be seen whether it's a one-trick pony. Honestly, I think
Exactly.
this is a gimmick.
It's a novelty, we'll say.
I think it's
How about that?
I'll say that. I think it's a gimmick that'll probably wear itself thin if they try to do a bunch more of things like this.
So they obviously are.
Yeah,
Maybe
100%.
not, maybe not Black Mirror, but there's going to be other
Yeah.
Right.
TV shows.
Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, they have Minecraft Story Mode, and I think they have a couple others in the works, indeed.
I completely expect it to get really boring and really lazily done at some point very soon. But I thought, in terms of this one, I thought they did a good job.
We'll
so.
see if they jump the shark on fucking adventure
Yeah.
games. But no, like I said, we'll certainly probably see a couple more, like you just pointed out, and we'll evaluate those as we see fit.
Mhm.
Will they legitimately give you the choice of jumping a shark?
I
or
hope
not?
so.
I was
Because
about
if
to
they
ask,
do, then I will give them a very strong recommendation.
Will they let you get lost in the Amazon jungle?
Hopefully. All of that stuff.
all
more.
the things. All the things.
But for now, I think that'll do it from us.
Or is it a jungle in South Africa?
I don't know,
America?
dude.
South
Could be
America?
goddamn anything, Chris. I don't know.
It's down there somewhere. Maybe Miami.
I never know what Chris is choosing to say or do in life. But with
It's,
that,
I don't know.
I can tell you that we always take the liberty of choosing for you what to watch, which is us, of course, the Lost Signals. And I have been tonight, Scott Thurlow with Chris Morgan.
And I'm just not going to choose.
Choose not to choose. Jonathan Ian Manzer.
Unfortunately, viewer, you have to go back to the beginning. There might be different dialogue, but probably not.
There
It's a
won't.
hotline.
And Steven Amosi.
And I'm going to choose to actually do a strange thing. I'm going to do a really quick promo. I just got on Letterboxd, so I'm going to be doing like quick little rundowns of any movies that we watch. If you guys want to follow me on there, it's Steve83. I'm going to try and get these motherfuckers on there. I doubt they'll do it, but maybe. So if you want to check that out, go ahead.
Chosen different path.
And we'll see you next time. Good night.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates. Or mods?